on chapter, hold on, gotta exit this before it does this. We're on chapter 10, section 3, the God of Sick. Now, before we get into this reading, just to bring in some inspirational related texts and also a story. So, I've lived with some cats, and they enjoy their freeze-dried food. Now, it is very dry, and they'll eat it like that, but they tend to get dehydrated if they just that. So I spritz it with the water. I have a little water mist. I put the food in there. They have to be patient, and I spritz it down with water so it gets kind of hydrated, so that cats kind of don't drink enough in the first place. So it's kind of to give them enough water. I got the spritzer going. I have plants over there. I give them a spritz. They call it cat grass growing. Cats love to eat wheatgrass. They chew on it. So I spritz that. I love the spritzer. Now, several weeks ago, something happened with the spritzer where I'm sure we've all experienced where, there's a spritzer that works, and then sometimes something happens where it's only like half a stream. And so this spritzer had like half a stream, and something was going on. I gave it time. This was over the course of several weeks. And I didn't think of it too much, but I think a couple days ago, the thought came to mind of, maybe I'll get another spritzer. But the immediate thought after this was, no, we'll just fix it. I don't know how it works. We'll take it apart. I'll just fix it. So I just decided it's done. I'm going to take it apart, fix it. It's better for this way, for the spritzer, for everybody. If I fix it, it's a better story, And yesterday, so this was 2 days ago. Yesterday, I take out the spritzer. This was the very next time I used it after making this statement. And it just worked. It just worked. I didn't do anything, but the spritzer worked. And so my question is, who fixed the spritzer? Who fixed it? Who fixed it? Now, I have a reading to share. This is from Luke, and this is the story of Jesus healing a centurion's servant. So with this story and this reading, let's get another picture of healing here. Now, and this is Jesus, when he concluded all his sayings in the hearing of the people, he entered Capernaum, and a certain centurion's servant who was dear to him was sick and ready to die. So when he heard about Jesus, he sent elders of the Jews to him, pleading with him to come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they begged him earnestly, saying that the one for whom he should do this was deserving, for he loves our nation and has built us a synagogue. Then Jesus went with them, and when he was already not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying to him, Lord, do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof. Therefore, I did not even think myself worthy to come to you. But say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man placed under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at them, and turned around and said to the crowd that followed him, I say to you, I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel. And those who were sent, returning to the house, found the servant well who had been sick. And so my question to the room, who healed the servant? Who healed the servant? Of course, the tradition is Jesus just said the word and healed him. But would Jesus have said that healed him if the centurion hadn't had faith? And every healing, nearly every healing in the Gospels, when Jesus heals somebody, what he always follows it with is, your faith has made you whole. Your faith has healed you. So who's doing the healing here? Was it Jesus or was the centurion who had the faith in the first place? Maybe we'll get the answer in this reading. This is about the God of sickness and, of course, healing. So, again, or as usual, feel free to type into chat any comments on Facebook or any other humanities.team. Feel free to chat something Karen might see and bring it over. And if you want to, feel free to raise a hand if you want to come on and say something, so that there's a nice baton pass. So let's just begin here. We'll read a paragraph at a time. You have not attacked God, and you do love him, him being God. Can you change your reality? No one can will to destroy himself. When you think you are attacking yourself, it is a sure sign that you hate what you think you are. And this, and only this, can be attacked by you. What you think you are can be very hateful, and what this strange image makes you do can be very destructive. Yet the destruction is no more real than the image, although those who make idols do worship them. The idols are nothing, but their worshippers are the sons of God in sickness. God would have them released from their sin, returned to his mind. He will not limit your power to help them, because he has given it to you. Do not be afraid of it, because it is your salvation. Now, we have some things going on here. Let me just get chat over on the side somehow. So let's just say, absolutely, Carla says in chat, we have the power to heal ourselves. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is, I think we'll essentially come to this in this reading, how it is that we have this power. And so in this paragraph, there's a lot going on. I'm not sure if anybody has any thoughts or comments or questions about it. But I think one thing that maybe we can talk about that stands out, well, before we do, go ahead, Teresa. We have a hand up.
I was just wondering if we could, before we get into this, especially I haven't looked who's all here, if there's anybody really new, defining sickness, like a definition for sickness, because when you say it, your first, or most people's first reaction is on the very physical bodily sickness.
Would you have the gumption, Teresa, to give us a start?
Sure. So the sickness would be, there is a physical manifestation of sickness that we all are very aware of. There is also sickness I would call the split mind too. So when we are attacking in our thoughts and not in our right mind, our God mind, our pure loving thoughts, those thoughts can lead us, not being in that place, can lead us into sickness of mind, really, or our soul, or that split piece of us. And then we find we are attacking, and they start talking here about attacking yourself, or you would start attacking other people and being not understanding, all of a sudden you're cranky or you're striking out. And then you're mad at yourself, and you know you blew it with the other person, and now you attack them, and now that you're mad at yourself. And this kind of what I would call sickness can manifest and lead into a very physical form of sickness as well. Now we can be storing things within us as opposed to coming from that pure love, God-like self. We've stepped out of the kingdom. When we're out of the kingdom, we are sick?
I would be happy to share a perfect example.
Go ahead.
May I?
Hi,
Of course.
Kathy. Please.
Go ahead, Kathy.
I would call it insanity personally. I did this to myself the other day, and when I lost that connection, I call it spiraling. I could see myself like tumbling in a washing machine, being spun on full speed ahead. And I created a moment of absolute crazy thinking by feeling fear. Had I done something wrong? The story just grew and grew and grew, and I lost that connection. And I am happy to admit that it was insane what I did. I put myself through, and it's insanity in my head. And knowing, as soon as I trip up like that, it's to connect back to God, and that's where the peace and joy, as we talk about all the time. If you're not in that, it's losing that connection, that grounding, and off I spun. So I call it for myself insanity. And sure, I'm healthy and look, healthy and everything's fabulous. But I'll tell you, that head, when it spins off from the heart, it's a whole nother ball game. So that's what happened to me.
And even this is okay. It's okay. I think this is the beautiful thing of the atonement, as A Course in Miracles talks about, is just as non-judgment. It is the key. The solution is non-judgment itself. It's not a finality. It's not accomplishing non-judgment, but it's using non-judgment to get out of judgment, and we can snap out of it at any time. And so if we find ourselves making a judgment, well, of course, we can get in that washing machine cycle of then judging ourselves for judging and judging ourselves for doing that and judging them. But then always the solution is just non-judgment. Oh, okay, that's okay. I judged, that's fine. Or somebody else judged, that's okay. That's fine. As soon as we can make this understanding that right now I can be in non-judgment, then this is the path to healing.
Yeah, full acceptance of all of it, including the thinking that we're in judgment, etc. I think probably all of us, or most of us, have had the experience of feeling like we're spinning out and feeling like we're not connected and we're not grounded, and it's a very real experience, right? But I would like to reread this sentence number 4. In previous chapters, we've heard language like you are attacking yourself. In fact, you're attacking God, or, that kind of thing. And here it's fine tuning, it's clarifying, it's saying you haven't attacked God, you do love him. And sentence number 4, when you think you are attacking yourself. So we're not really attacking ourselves ever. When we think we're attacking ourselves, it's a sure sign that we hate what we think we are. It's a sure sign that we are uncomfortable with being in judgment, or we're uncomfortable with spinning out, or whatever the situation is. And those are real situations. We feel them, they're happening. But I think it's important, because we're far along enough in our studies here. I think it's important to just remind ourselves that it's not really happening. There really isn't an attack happening. It's all in the thinking that we are doing it. Full acceptance for everything. All of it. It's all God.
And thank you, Karen. This is precisely why A Course in Miracles is so seemingly, cerebral or mental, is because our paradigm, we've grown up to be this way. And so A Course in Miracles is just speaking our language in order to reverse a lot of these overanalyzing things. Go ahead, Kathy. I see her.
Oh, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
I'm walking a pup, and I just forgot I was off mute. No, and just so you know, not to be discouraged, I did come back full circle, but it was just the explanation, what I call, that form of sickness. And the beauty again of the program, yes, is the reminding of being kind to myself, whereas, that's where, just that constant reminder of not going to that judgmental place, and that I spun off in that direction, but came back full circle, and with the help of the program, I'm here.
You are here, and
Thank you.
I always love your real life examples. Always, they're very good. I think we can relate to them in some way. It's like, oh my gosh, I remember this morning I spun out, I did this. So I love that you bring that in, and you absolutely did go full circle. Yeah, for sure. So thank you for your sharing, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, for, of course. I think oftentimes I oftentimes take it for granted. I see the practicality of these nuanced thought patterns that we're forming, and maybe it's not so obvious, but Kathy, you always make it obvious. You make it so that people can see how it applies in circumstance.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yeah.
And this being said, it is, if we're talking about practicality and things, the most practical thing we can have is a foundational thought pattern, or a foundational belief, a place of truth from which all of our thoughts start, and we're fully confident in it, that we don't question it because it is all of everything, essentially. Having such an obvious and true starting point of thought is the most practical thing we can do by far, because it's the starting point of all thought, which is the starting point of all action, which is the starting point of all experience. So if we really want to change our experience, if we want to experience heaven in the fullness of it, let's cut to the very beginning. Bereshit in Hebrew, it's in the beginning. And the beginning is our starting place of thought, because things come in before. What's the phrase? Before the wheel, there was the idea of the wheel. So before anything comes, often it's thought first. And even more often it's subconscious. And this is the power of A Course in Miracles. When we form these belief systems, which before maybe they had just been put into place by society or by people that were close to us or by circumstance, and they just kind of fell into place in the box, like all the books just fell in the box in there. And so in A Course in Miracles, we're taking the books out and putting them in order so that they fit very nicely. And we know where we start. We're starting from truth. And this is training the subconscious. There's all these different books of the power of your subconscious mind, how to train your subconscious, how to tap into the subconscious. So Course in Miracles is it, really. It's not the exclusive it. But A Course in Miracles is setting the starting place of thought, which influences not only our conscious thought, but also subconscious thought, all these processes. So it sounds like it's silly, but just reading this paragraph is practical. Now, that I know we got something to continue, but I think we have a Colette on Facebook. And Colette is always with us on Facebook, so thank you for being with us, Colette. And one of these times you'll have to join us on a call, on a Zoom. We don't quite have that option on Acceleration, but A Course in Miracles for sure. Let's see here. So let's just continue here. Well, first, Selma says, we're spirits who are always learning and evolving. And as the Bible says, pray and watch. And this is the faith, Selma, though. So thank you. And this is essentially the starting point, starting from the place of spirit rather than body. Now, Teresa also, to backtrack a bit, brought in what sickness is. And essentially, if we can have a little spoiler alert here, A Course in Miracles says that all sickness is mental sickness. Nothing happens on the physical world that didn't first happen in the mental world. Everything is manifested through mind. Everything. Whose mind? Our mind. It's one mind. We share one single mind. We're not separate minds. So this mind of God, is manifesting all of this. And so sickness can only propagate into the physical if it first originates in the mental. So all sickness is a mental illness. Some is embodied in the body. But even this, if we can be in non-judgment about sickness, even this is a benign form of communication from God, from Creator, from Holy Spirit. It's a way of kind of getting us to change our thought patterns. It's essentially feedback. It's a saying, this is what thought has been brought. This is what thought has brought. And so if we didn't have that, we would continue to have the thought, which is more harmful than the physical. The physical can heal like this. We've seen through spontaneous healing. I'm not sure what the scientific word is. And, you know, the stories of Jesus going and touching somebody and they're healed. This is true. This is true. But it requires to bring in even more biblical language today. So the often heavy laden word of repent, this comes from the Greek word, which actually means more closer, change your mind. So it's not bow down and plead for forgiveness for all the bad that you've done. It's change your mind. So repent, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Change your mind. The kingdom of heaven is not out there. It's at hand. It's right here. It's within ourselves. Just change your mind about what it is. Repent. And so in order to heal, if we're sick, we just must repent. Change our mind about who we are and the power that we have. As Carla says, we have the power to heal ourselves. Who else will heal us? We have Selma. Go ahead, Selma.
Yes, I was just gonna compliment on or add to what you said about like when Jesus touched someone and the person got cured, and he said something like, it wasn't me, something like that. You cured yourself, and that was because of your faith. So if you believe, and that's the power of our minds as well.
Absolutely, Selma. I'm not sure if you were here for the top of the call, but we were talking about this exact thing, which often it's translated as your faith has made you whole. In the King James, it's very poetic. Thy faith hath made thee whole. I love this. It's just so empowering. It wasn't, you can thank me later. You know, it was, go on, thy faith hath made thee whole. You did it. You did it. And it's not a deflection of who did it. It's just truth. Your faith is responsible. And there are many of these little, kind of calls for faith. Some of the stories of essentially Jesus sometimes saying, oh, I can't heal you. I can only heal, the children of Israel. And the woman saying, but Lord, even the dogs get to eat the crumbs that fall off the table. And Jesus says, I see the faith in you. Your faith has made you whole. So, even when it seems like he's not going to heal somebody, he's just kind of asking, do you have the faith to heal yourself?
And
Which is-
isn't this what healing is anyway? What is healing? Your faith has healed you. Your faith has made you whole. Healing is the wholeness that we are. And the only reason we're in need of healing is because we've gone off the rails, right? You know, Kathy, we've spun out. We feel like we've lost our connection, and we don't think we're whole temporarily, but we are. The sickness is in thinking that we're not. And the faith is that we are, even faith in Jesus, right? There's the faith that, oh, I am whole, I can be whole. That is what the true healing is. A remembrance of who we are.
Yes, it is. Jesus approached the two blind men on the journey, saying, "Son of David, heal us," and or actually maybe this was the one blind man. And Jesus said, "Do you believe that I can do this?" And he said, "Yes." That was all. That's all he needed. He just needed to say, "Yes, I believe. Of course I believe." And this is the healing. So who healed? I don't know if it's Jesus, as much as Jesus being a symbol of healing for people to hold on to. Now, one concept that I like to bring in here, this is another biblical concept, but it's mentioned in this paragraph. This is a bit more, just to get a greater sense of what's going on here. This concept of idols. Does anybody have any inkling or have any insights of really what this is getting at? Those who make idols do worship them. The idols are nothing, but their worshipers are the Son of God and sickness. So what is an idol, and how, of course, what is it conceptually, but also what is it practically? What is an example of what it can be?
Can I say something?
Of course.
It's I think this is referring to like when you believe in like saints and images, and like you pray in front of an image and you make that to be bigger maybe than God, like Saint Joseph, whatever, Saint Saint Peter, whatever that is. I think it's the Bible is referring to that, at least as far as the Bible goes. I'm not sure about a course in miracles, but it could be, if we bring it to our present life, it could be anything. Like if you praise like celebrities and things like that as well, I think it could work.
Yes, exactly. And so oftentimes, well, always essentially, the way this unfolds, it doesn't unfold in a way of saying, this person is my God, or money is my God, or fame, or promotion. That's not how it works. It's not, people don't go and say, I'm going to worship an idol, and my idol is money, say. Well, how it actually plays out in experience is, whether consciously or not, something takes ultimate authority in our actions. So whether it's social accreditation, whatever it may be, pleasing others, whatever it is, if something is the pinnacle of our actions, the thing that we value more than anything else, the driver of everything that we do, whether acknowledged or not, that's an idol. That's an idol. So anything less than God is an idol. Because how can something be the totality of everything in our experience other than God? We can't. So if we have something that's less than God, which is anything that is less than God, name, whatever, status, wisdom, whatever it may be, that's an idol. That's an idol. Of course, oftentimes it's framed in the sense of, like the golden calf. People are bowing down to the golden calf. And worshiping the image of a beast and saying it's God. But it can be more subtle than that. I'm just, we're faced with the decision, and we're faced with these moments of who is God? How am I acting now? And this is who God is to me. So if what's driving us is just financial gain for my isolated self, many times that's the idol. That's the idol. And there's not one it's not even wrong to do this. But idols, essentially what A Course in Miracles is saying, is essentially the source of sickness. The idols are nothing. All these things which are less than God, and somehow, if it's less than God, it's also more than God, because we think it's more than God, but nothing can be more than God. So this kind of shows the sense where it doesn't make sense what we're thinking. They're worshipers. The worshipers are idols, are the sons of God in sickness. It's split mind, as Teresa has said. It's understanding intuitively, because we're here, that we are children of God, but yet blocking it out and saying, wait, that's better. That thing over there, that's better than God. That's better than my divine, whether it's my individual decision-making prerogative or whatever it may be. There's endless, all sorts of examples. But if we worship, essentially, what we're called to do in A Course in Miracles, as we're saying, is to make this foundational cornerstone of our thought system. And it has to be God. It has to be. What is more foundational? If it's not, we're essentially sowing seeds of sickness for ourselves. Because if our foundation is not God, it is limited by definition. So if it's limited and we're planting seeds of limitation, we're going to reap the fruits of limitation, which of course is embodied ultimately in sickness. Let's see, Teresa with the hand raised.
I just wanted to emphasize a point. The idols are nothing. When I hear nothing, I just want to say, meaning neutral. So they're not good, they're not bad, they are neutral. Money isn't bad. It can do great things, but it is neutral. So if the car comes to you or the money, as long as you're not worshiping it, it's a neutral, then it's all good, or it's all okay. See, good and bad, it's hard to get away from it, isn't it?
Capital G.
Yeah.
And who fixed the spritzer? Or in my case, who fixed the garage door, which just wouldn't unlock? So I decided I'll go on YouTube and I'll figure out how to take this apart and fix the mechanism. And as soon as I decided that I was going to do it and hadn't gotten around to doing that yet, after 3-4 weeks of this garage door not opening, but just wouldn't turn, it wouldn't open, it just opened. So who fixed the spritzer? And it was really kind of like, what? It works? So money, right? It's neutral, right? As you say, Teresa. But what is money? If we think of money as something separate from the whole, as not God, we're missing the point. That's the sickness. So yeah, money can be used for wonderful things, but what is it really? Who's fixing the spritzer and the door? Who's running the show? Well, what's the energy of the money? What is it really? It's so beautiful.
Really, with the garage door, you see this? I would bet that
really, for weeks this thing wouldn't open.
I know, it's the spritzer. Same thing.
Turned the little knob, turned it the other way, went to the outside, tried the key, just wouldn't. The little handle wouldn't open. And then it just did one day.
I would go to say that the fixer of the door is the fixer of the spritzer, is the healer of the servant.
Is the mover of the money.
Yeah. And even I'd like to just even extend this a bit further. So these neutral tools, even A Course in Miracles is a tool. Like it's not an embodied experience. What we yearn, what the soul yearns for, is experience. It's not that the possessions and the things or the titles and all those things, because there's no experience inherent in that. But the experience of something maybe that uses all these things, this is what we're called to do. And the giver of experience, we might call God here. Isn't it a miracle? We have this experience and it just continues. It just continues, and we're still here, and we're still having this experience, and it's changing, and we're still here, but it's a new experience, and we're still here. It could stop. It could stop at any moment, but it doesn't. So it's a miracle, truly. So,
Alma says this is A Course in Miracles, and those fixings were miracles. Yeah.
yes. It's, sometimes these thoughts come in today. The thought, somebody asking, what is a miracle? If somebody were to ask, KG, what's a miracle? And the answer, the all-inclusive answer, the one answer that is inclusive, not the exclusive answer, but the answer is, this is a miracle. All of this, just look around, the fact that we can look and just think, we could think. And we're in communication here. This is a miracle. This is a miracle. So, of course, as Karen's saying, to say that money is separate from God is the sickness. It's the split-mindedness. So thank you for taking us back here. So let's continue. Boy, could we have some to read here. What comforter? This is another name that we could add for the Holy Spirit. Pretty much anytime we see a capital name that is not familiar to us, it's talking about Holy Spirit. So what comforter can there be for the sick children of God except his power through you? Remember that it does not matter where in the sonship God is accepted. God is always accepted for all. And when your mind receives God, the remembrance of God awakens throughout the sonship. Heal your brothers and sisters simply by accepting God for them. Your minds are not separate, and God has only one channel for healing, because God has but one son-daughter creation. God's remaining communication link with all God's children joins them together and them to him. To be aware of this is to heal them, because it is the awareness that no one is separate and so no one is sick. So isn't this a pretty empowering thing? Talk about thy faith hath made thee whole. Having just the faith of being healed. And here we're extending this thought. Heal your brothers simply by accepting God for them. That's it. It's not saying go over, do this ritual, lay hands on them, go chat with them. It's not saying any of this. It's saying accept God for them. So what does this actually mean? Let's continue. To believe that a son of God can be sick is to believe that part of God can suffer. Love cannot suffer because it cannot attack. The remembrance of love therefore brings invulnerability with it. Do not side with sickness in the presence of a son of God, even if he believes in it, for your acceptance of God in him acknowledges the love of God he has forgotten. Your recognition of him as part of God reminds him of the truth about himself, which he is denying. Would you strengthen his denial of God and thus lose sight of yourself? Or would you remind him of his wholeness and remember your Creator with him? So here we are back again. Last week, I believe we were talking about empathizing, and proper empathizing as according to A Course in Miracles, which is always in fullness of joy and truth and love. Empathizing with pain is not empathizing. It is attempting to share illusion and making it stronger in our own mind and maybe in somebody else's own mind. Why? Because it's the same mind. Not in truth, but in time, in this domain of illusion, where illusion seems like it can be more real than what is real. So here's how it actually works. We're talking about accept God for them. This is how we heal. And this is a pretty powerful statement. It's not saying one part of healing it's not saying one way. It's saying heal your brothers. This is a command. The heal is a nudge. Heal your brothers simply by accepting God for them. There's not a conditional phrase after it. It works in these circumstances. Anybody who needs healing can be healed, is healed, simply by us accepting God for them. And to tease it out a bit more fully for how it actually works, do not side with sickness in the presence of a son of God, even if he believes in it. For your acceptance of God in him acknowledges the love of God he has forgotten.
Could you scroll up for a sec? So heal your brothers simply by accepting God for them does not say and tell them you're doing that. I would just like to say.
Right.
Just do it. Just hold it. Just think it. That's all. Nothing, as you said, Noah, nothing else. Can do any number of things, but nothing else is required.
And you're right. KG, it's not, and tell them you do it. Accept God for them. There's no step two. Step one of the one-step process of healing. Whom? Any part of this that may think itself is sick. Accept God for them. How? How do we do this? Well, here's a little insight. Do not side with sickness. So let's see, is there another? To believe that a son of God can be sick is to believe that part of God can suffer. So we're going to tease this out and even get to what this one means. But first, Teresa has a hand raised. Annette, go ahead.
I didn't even realize it did it. But I have a real life this morning full-on example of this. My ex-mother-in-law, her cancer is in remission, and she should be happy as all get out. And I'm there helping her today, and she's telling me that her cancer is worse than her son's, and she just doesn't want to hear it. And I was standing there saying, the God in me honors, in my head, she doesn't want to hear it out loud. I've already tried. I'm an optimist. I've already planted all those seeds. She's not biting. But I stood there, the God in me honors the God in you. And I just kept saying it to myself as she rattled on. And I see you in love and light. You are in health. And I was okay. I got through it, and I walked away from the exchange, and I was glowing on the inside, which is good because she can frustrate me. So there's, she's not there, and she doesn't want to hear anything about any of this. She wants to be sick. And it's very, yeah. Anyways, I didn't even realize hit my hand. Thank you.
Absolutely. This is, Teresa, this is what it means to not side with sickness in the presence of a son, daughter of God. Oftentimes it's masked. It's masked as we have to be kind, this person is going through this, and it's okay that, you'll get through it, whatever it may be. What we can keep in mind, perhaps, A Course in Miracles says, trust not your good intentions. Trust Holy Spirit. Trust God. Trust the universal inspiration, which will tell us exactly what to say so long as we're in this place. And as Teresa says, some people, maybe not consciously, but actually want to be sick. Why? Any number of reasons, for the attention, for whatever. And so why would we continue to play that game? I'm going to continue to, it's like the gladiator games. I'll strengthen your sickness in my mind so that you get more sick, or we hold this person in mind as Teresa. This is vibrance. Thank you for sharing your health with me on this interaction, no matter what may be going on. And as Karen likes to say, that this is also not a denial. It's not a blinders to what may be going on. We're not at all denying things, but as much as a reframing for why it's going on, or what is going on.
Yeah, and that takes us back to what you brought in earlier, Teresa, about let's define sickness, right? As, what are we talking about here when we say sickness in A Course in Miracles? Because Noah, I was just thinking about anyone with a child, right, who has a fever. So you hold the child, you get a cool washcloth, you put the washcloth on the child's head, you rock, you comfort, you sing, you put on TV, whatever you do. The child's not feeling well, so we don't deny that. We don't deny that someone has symptoms, what we call symptoms of something, but we don't have to label it as something wrong. And that's what sickness is when our thinking says there's something wrong here. This shouldn't be happening. This is not whole. This needs to be changed. We can approach anyone who has any kind of symptom that our normal, our culture defines as some sickness. And we can help them, we can comfort them, we can be with them. So absolutely not denial of what's going on, but it's how we're framing it. That's the power. That's the turning point here, this foundational thinking that A Course in Miracles provides for us. Anything can happen in this world, and anything does happen.
And it's,
Wouldn't Dr. E. Haleakala Hulen say Ho'oponopono?
Kathy, please share this with us.
Dr. E. Haleakala Hulen in Hawaii, he was taught of an old way of healing was really you didn't even have to be in a person's, to be right next to them. You could be away from them. You could be distanced, whether it's in another room or very far away, but you held them in your thought and you prayed for them. And his method would be to just say, I love you, memories replaying. I thank you for this opportunity to free you. I love you. Thank you. And just being, we're all connected, we're all one, that instead of judging, he was in a clinic, a facility that had what people term insane people that had done hideous, horrendous things as bad as murder or who knows what else. And without being with the people in person, without speaking with them, he just prayed for them. And the facility, the sanitarium, was emptied out. And so he's well known for that. And he takes no responsibility, he is not anyone special in his mind, but he just believes that it's in order to just love one another and offer that love, that's how we heal, because we are right there with the other. So heal within ourselves does the healing on the whole. I did it right. So Dr. E. Haleakala Hulen says even if you say his name, offers the blessing, but it's Ho'oponopono.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for bringing that prayer in.
You're welcome. And I like it because it lightens things up for me. I like to just say his name and it lightens it up.
It does.
So light. So Also, one to send this all these sharings about Ho'oponopono and all these things is essentially we also have to tie back. We don't have to, but it helps maybe to tie back in. A Course in Miracles says to see a brother as a body is essentially to be insane. You know, to limit somebody to a body is to attempt to limit God, is to not see who God is, essentially. And this is what we're really getting at, is we're not denying any sort of bodily happening, but we're also not denying the infinite potential of what is behind all this, and seeing who it is that's behind the body. And this is who we're seeing as fully healed, as divine and perfect. This is who you are. This is who I'm communicating with. This is who is blessing me right now in our interaction. And so this is who we see. If we don't have a form to it, then good, because it doesn't need a form. But it's a concept. Maybe it's abstract, but we can feel into it when we're chatting with somebody. We know that, especially those who we know well enough, or even those who we don't know well. Maybe it's even easier sometimes to just see the full glory in somebody. To see the spark. One of my favorite Jewish prayers is, "Blessed are you, God, for illuminating the pupil of the eye." I love this. Who illuminates the pupil of the eye? It's God. And this is what we're looking at when we look in the eye. And this is who we're acknowledging when we're with a brother who thinks they're sick. Whoa, I'm looking at the face of God here. I'm looking right at the pupil, the illuminated pupil.
And let's always remember, we always circle back around to this. There is nothing wrong, nothing at all wrong with anyone hanging out in the realm of thinking they're sick. Because as we mentioned a few minutes ago, there's so many reasons why people might do that. So not a problem. We just respect them for who they are. We can see through that, through the body, to see who they are and hold them in the love of God.
Yeah, it's kind of like a young one who's imagine a young little child saying, "Oh, I won't amount to anything." But would we accept that? No. Well, huh? I already see the perfection in you, little miss, whoever's saying this. Would we really empathize and say, yes, my 6-year-old friend, you won't amount to anything. I agree. I see what you're saying. No, we wouldn't do that. Same thing with somebody who thinks they're sick, even if it's ourselves. Let us continue here. I think even a Kathy joined on video, so. To believe, and here's a continuation, to believe a son of God is sick is to worship the same idol he does. And again, we'll read the whole paragraph, but sickness can also interchangeable with wrongness. Oftentimes sickness is, you need to get better, right? It needs to be corrected. You need to make it right. To think that somebody is sick is another way of saying something is wrong in this world. Something is wrong with somebody, nevertheless. God created love, not idolatry. All forms of idolatry are caricatures of creation, taught by sick minds, too divided to know that creation shares power and it never usurps it. Sickness is idolatry because it is the belief that power can be taken from you. Yet, this is impossible because you are part of God, who is all power. A sick God must be an idol, made in the image of what its maker thinks he is. And this is exactly what the ego does perceive in a son of God, a sick God, self-created, self-sufficient, very vicious, and very vulnerable. Is that the idol you would worship? Is that the image you would be vigilant to save? Are you really afraid of losing this? And of course, in this little phrase, self-created, always get taken back to Shabana's example of knowing somebody who's, what does this mean, self-created? Somebody who says, I'm a self-made man, is what it is. So thank you, Shabana. And of course, it's just setting up for limitation to think that there's nothing greater than isolated, limited self. Now, this is also getting at the concept of idolatry. It may seem like it's an extreme phrasing of this, but is it really? Does not sickness become the source of action for many? Doing things because of sickness? Because of sickness, I will do this. Because of sickness, I will do that. Becomes a god, becomes an idol. We can, and it's again, not to deny the symptoms. We can be in the symptom and yet know enough to know that it's just a stage of healing. That we don't need to change, that God is still here, essentially. And God being here is the source of our action, not sickness, not separation. Look calmly at the logical conclusion of the ego's thought system and judge whether its offering is really what you want. For that is what it offers you. To obtain this, you are willing to attack the divinity of your brothers and thus lose sight of yours. And you are willing to keep it hidden to protect an idol you think will save you from the dangers for which it stands, but which does not exist. We think that by worshiping the god of sickness that we can circumvent sickness, we can avoid sickness. But it doesn't make sense. To worship the god of sickness is sickness. And of course, to get even backtrack a bit further, the sickness is really just the split mind. The one problem, the one sickness, the one supposed, quote unquote, wrong or mistake is the idea that there is a wrong or a mistake or a sickness, is the belief that God is not here. And oftentimes, it's not taken to be so simple. We don't often make the mistake of saying God is not here. But we make certain thoughts that say the same exact thing, just in a different form. To say something is wrong, something's wrong with that, whether it's a policy or whatever, is to say that God is not here. How can something be wrong in God? And this is the one mistake. This is the one sickness. And when we set momentum in sickness, it snowballs and grows in our experience.
I think we also don't need to get into the territory of saying, let's say somebody has a lot of symptoms, of saying, well, this is right, this is good. I think, we run into a thing with, where are the right words? How can we talk about this? What we want to talk about is wholeness and God and love and the connection, the oneness of it all, the correctness, the perfection. We want to talk about that. That's what this is, not that, but when you say this. But when we say, we don't want to say there's something wrong with symptoms. We don't want, I do this, I use this kind of language and then I catch myself. Like, well, we don't want to say that it's wrong. We want to have full acceptance of what's going on. At the same time, there's no need to say it's right that you're suffering. It's not wrong and it's not right. It just is. Because it feels funny, right? To say, well, it's a learning experience and it's good that you have all these severe symptoms and, you can learn from it and you can get through it. And it feels very odd to me to say it's wrong or that there's something good about it.
Well, think of what's inherent in this, the learning experience thing. Implicit in that is that it's wrong and it needs to be overcome. So even that is kind of calling it wrong, really.
Yeah, you have to be on this journey. It's good that you have these symptoms because you're going to get through it, and you have to be on this journey. And that is just another way of saying that there's something wrong about it. That's true.
But it's like the words to use. Of course, we don't need to think about them. They'll come. First of all, this is A Course in Miracles. This is gospel. This is Bible. This is ancient, timeless, eternal wisdom that we don't need to think of it in spirit. It comes naturally. But so what are the words to use? Well, maybe let's just think of maybe some examples. Whoever is thinking of in all sorts of symptoms and conditions, what is the best case scenario? What is the greatest idea, conception that you can see happening with all this? This is a start, because at least at this point, we're giving a willingness for it to happen. If we're reveling in the momentum of decline and that, we're not giving the willingness for the miracle to happen, for the healing to occur, because we're not even considering it. But if we can at least consider, if we can just be in the moment, for one moment of saying, what would I really, what would make all of this, what I'm going through, absolutely perfect? How, or even furthermore, how can I possibly, how may it be that this, what we're going through, what I'm going through with whoever, how can it possibly, how is it possible? Is it possible that this is exactly right? Is it possible? Can I conceive of it that this is exactly right? Because this is the little willingness. If we just give a little glimpse of maybe it is right. Maybe it is perfect. Maybe this is exactly the path that I was meant to be on. Not for me to suffer forever, but maybe it's something that I couldn't even conceive.
I think I'm envisioning an old cartoon of how when they see they're going so fast and then they're gonna put the brakes on and screech before they plow in and destroy something. And it's back to the resistance. I see that as resistance. For me, it's the tripping up. As soon as the judgment sets in, this shouldn't be happening, putting the brakes on, and nothing stops. Everything's in constant movement. So you're just going against the flow of life. And that's where the miracle happens, is when we catch it and not resist. So back to our little willingness and trust. And but it's I see myself, if something happens, and like what happened the other day, and the minute it went into fear, that's resistance. It was just and it just snowballed. It was just like I was pounding against block after block. And it's again catching yourself and breathing and flowing with whatever it is. And that's where the healing happens. And we think healing means that one will be cured of a disease. They may be, or maybe not. And I know nothing. Maybe not being cured is the gift. So it's stepping back and not getting caught in that resistance is, to me, the key. And I need a little help from my friends. And also, I was going to say, back to Dr. Ihaliakala Hulen, the key component was, as he said, whatever he was looking at, he saw it as a reflection of himself. It must be, because we're back and forth. So by him honoring and doing the work on himself is the blessing to the other. So it's a double whammy.
Yes, it is. And of course, there's a certain sort of resistance and effort and tremendous to screech to a stop, But while we're sailing that rudder, you just move it so slightly. That's just like this. And all of a sudden your entire trajectory has changed. So you don't even necessarily need to stop, but just that little slight movement, just the thought of, I can envision a reality where the garage door is fixed And just that's the rudder. It happened. How? Quantum fluctuations and the thing? Who knows? I'm sure we could explain it some way. But whatever it is, it's not a coincidence that the intent, the thought was set, that the momentum was, it is set, it is written, it is determined, boom. And then it happens much easier than we would have even expected. But it's also kind of like gripping the steering wheel so tight. And then if you just let it go and trust, and it just directs itself right to where we need to be automatically, and then we can take control back when we're in the swing of things. Let's continue reading here. There are no idolaters in the kingdom, but there is great appreciation for everything that God created because of the calm knowledge that each one is part of God. God's son, daughter creation knows no idols, but he does know his Father. Health in this world is the counterpart of value in heaven. It is not my merit that I contribute to you, but my love, for you do not value yourself. When you, let's say, if you do not value yourself, you become sick. But my value of you can heal you, because the value of God's Son is one. When I said, my peace I give unto you, I meant it. Peace comes from God through me to you. It is for you, although you may not ask for it. Isn't this a cool little humanities team plug? The value of God's Son is one. This is the value of oneness. It's not four. It's not a jillion. It's one. Who? All. Every one is one. All of this is one. And one is its value. No more, no less, because one is wholeness. Any more than one implies also less than one. We can't have two if we also don't have the concept of half. But if we have one and one only, 1 over 1 is 1. There's only wholeness in 1. And the value is 1. So to see this value in every, if we can say every one of God's sons, every one of God's daughters, every part of this, every culmination of this, every permutation of this, every collection is one, each getting the same value. So all of society is one, each one is one, same value.
Every thought, every symptom, every healing, every fever reduction, every death, all of it equal one. No more meaning to one thing than another. All the individual aspects or parts of the one. The whole in each seeming part. It could be death, as you were saying, Kathy. It could be death. It could be recovering from something. It could be not recovering from something. Not for us to say, right? This is good. This is bad. This should happen. This shouldn't happen. Or even, oh, it's good you're going through this because put some condition on it. No, we don't have to put any kind of meaning on any of it. It's one. It's one. I love that. Every bit, every piece.
And this is the right-mindedness that we're called into embodying and mentalizing, remembering, recognizing, is to actually think this way. Talk about practicality. To see everyone as the full value of God's Son is what we're called to do, is the healing, is heaven. When we can see everyone, this is not limited to humans. This is not limited to, the typical definition of biological life. Anything that we can say, that's one, that desk is one, this piece of the desk is one. To see each as equally valuable is the healing, is the wholeness. Now, this is often framed, and we'll get much greater into this soon enough. It's often framed as a sacrifice. The common objection is, I can't love the guy on the street the same as my mother, because the thought is often taken to be that I have to diminish the love of my mother to love the person equally. But is that true? Can we love that person just as much as our mother? Yes, we can. Can we love our mother fully if we don't love this person fully? No, we can't. We cannot love our mother fully unless we love the person on the street and the squirrel in the tree equally, fully equally. Only in this state of observation of this mentality do we actually know what love is. Otherwise, it's a pseudo love. It's a conditional love. It's a, I love that because it's not that. And we're missing sight of all of this. But we're tuning into capital L love, the agape love, which is love because God has made it so, which is everything that is here. Everything that is here. If you want to speak, Karen, you're muted.
Hearing myself, this is good. What you're saying, this is really, really good. You know, it's, can we love our mother, our child, our beloved, whomever it is? Is it really love if we're not loving someone or something else? What we're saying here is no, it's not fully love. It's not love with a capital L. So this means we love our brother. We love the person on the street, I mean to say. We love the person whose political opinion we disagree with, right? We love the person who did this act that we would prefer didn't happen. This is all-inclusive love, what we're talking about here. And it is possible. It's not how we're trained, particularly, to love everyone equally. But it is possible, and it is, if we're talking about love with a capital L, so we like to capitalize things around here, then this is it. It has to be for everyone and everything, all inclusively.
I think we're being untrained.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you guys are doing a good job on the chilling today. So as long as we talk about the oneness, it's amazing how powerful that is. It's really a beautiful gift. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is practical. Talk about practical. Just to consider it, you know? Not many people would even consider it. Now, Karen brings in, maybe it's not how we've been trained, but it is entirely natural. It is entirely natural. Maybe it's not normal, but it's fully natural. It's how we are created. So it'll be difficult if we think it'll be, but we can make it very easy. We can make it simple. And we're not even called to just make it a statement of it's accomplished as much as just a non-judgment, to keep it as a recurring, preference or priority that we have to love, to have capital L love for all of this and everybody equally. And if we catch ourselves not doing this, then fell for it, but this is okay.
And in the same way that we can be with another person and we can hold them in the love of God, we can know them as that wholeness. But as I said before, we don't have to tell them we're doing this. In that same respect, we can love everyone equally, but I might express the love I have for my granddaughter with a great big hug. I might not do that with the person in the grocery store. Right? So the expression of love, that can be, and quite a beautiful variety of ways to express love. but we can hold the love for everybody and everything equally.
Yes, we can.
So in one way, to me, we know that this message is repetitive over and over. We have a book that's big and thick. And because for me, one of my trip ups will be, like I shared with you, my slip the other day. It's, there must be a purpose for the book to be so thick. I say this in compassion for myself, for the repetitive nature, because in one way it is so simple and we should go get it. But being human in this body, the slips. And so it's the reminder. I'd like to think she's got it and I've got it. And I mean, it's forever, but it's the part of the ride of needing
Yes.
to remember.
It's also, Kathy, like to think of how thick the book of our experience would be. Talk about a thick book, you know? So this is actually pretty condensed when we really think of it in terms of our entire conditional experience of what we've been told is right and told again. How many times we're told without even it being explicit, just by this is what I continue to see, and so therefore it must be right. So yes, it's thick, but it's you know.
Well, it's back to the undoing, because to me it's reminding to remember what I believe I came in knowing. And you're right. So life experience went one way, and it's unwinding my crazy thinking.
Unwinding our crazy thinking. We've all contributed to this. This is one mind, isn't it? We have also, sorry, but there's a whole bunch of people in Deborah. I haven't welcomed you. Manuela. Let's see. Sheila and Brandon, welcome. Susan, welcome. Valerie, welcome. Sorry if I'm missing you, but always welcome to type in chat or hop on in. So one thing before we continue on paragraph 7, it is for you, although you may not ask for it. This is essentially saying it's for you, although you may not ask for it. You know, ask and you shall receive. You can just not ask. You know, this is not saying you may not ask for it. It's saying you may very well just prefer to not ask for it, which is fine. It's still God. When a brother is sick, it is because he is not asking for peace and therefore does not know he has it. The acceptance of peace is the denial of illusion, and sickness is an illusion. Yet every son of God has the power to deny illusions anywhere in the kingdom, merely by denying them completely in himself. I can heal you because I know you. I know your value for you, and it is this value that makes you whole. A whole mind is not idolatrous and does not know of conflicting laws. I will heal you merely because I have only one message, and it is true. Your faith in it will make you whole when you have faith in me. So, just real quickly, I know we're kind of closing in on time here, but when we're saying sickness is an illusion, let's also just reaffirm we're not talking about denying certain things that may be happening or symptoms or physicalities and feelings and things. We're saying that sickness as an identity, as an eternal state, is an illusion. And so nobody inherently is sick. And the sickness that somebody can identify with is the illusion. It may feel very real, and we're not denying that this is not true. But the sickness, to think that essentially sickness is separation from God, it's an illusion. It can't be true. Limitation, you know, something that God just doesn't have it for me, or whatever the thought is. So, okay, let's continue. I do not bring God's message with deception, and you will learn this as you learn that you always receive as much as you accept. You can accept peace now for everyone and offer them perfect freedom from all illusions because you heard God's voice. but have no other gods before God, or you will not hear. God is not jealous of the gods you make, but you are. You would save them and serve them because you believe that they made you. You think they are your father because you are projecting onto them the fearful fact that you made them to replace God. Yet when they seem to speak to you, remember that nothing can replace God, and whatever replacements you have attempted are nothing. So just one reiteration here. You always receive as much as you accept. Isn't this nice? That in order for us to receive, we have to accept. The gifts won't come flying through a closed door. We have to accept them. This is another way of saying the willingness. We have to be willing to receive. And this is a natural acceptance. Very simply then, you may believe you are afraid of nothingness, but you are really afraid of nothing. And in this awareness, you are healed. You will hear the God you listen to. You made the God of sickness, and by making him, you made yourself able to hear him. Yet you did not create him because he is not the will of the Father. He is therefore not eternal, and will be unmade for you the instant you signify your willingness to accept only the eternal. Now, let me just backtrack a bit here. So where is that one line here? Let's see. Where does it say you can heal everybody just by accepting healing for yourself? Was this before 1, 2? Okay. But it had some, if we reread this, it's certainly reminiscent of accept the atonement for ourselves. So this is interesting. You believe you are afraid of nothingness, which is essentially oblivion, but you're really afraid of nothing. Or maybe perhaps another way of saying this, you are not even afraid of nothing. There is nothing of which we can be afraid, really afraid. Because nothingness is not something to be afraid of. If God has but one Son, there is but one God. You share reality with God because reality is not divided. To accept other gods before capital G God is to place other images before yourself. You do not realize how much you listen to your gods and how vigilant you are on their behalf. Yet they exist only because you honor them. Place honor where it is due, and peace will be yours. It is your inheritance from your real Father. You cannot make your Father, and the Father you made did not make you. Honor is not due to illusions, for to honor them is to honor nothing. Yet fear is not due them either, for nothing cannot be fearful. You have chosen to fear love because of its perfect harmlessness, and because of this fear you have been willing to give up your own perfect helpfulness and your own perfect help. Only at the altar of God will you find peace, and this altar is in you because God put it there, here. God's voice still calls you to return, and God will be heard when you place no other gods before him. You can give up the god of sickness for your brothers. In fact, you would have to do so if you give him up for yourself. For if you see the god of sickness anywhere, you have accepted him. And if you accept him, you will bow down and worship him because he was made as God's replacement. He is the belief that you can choose which God is real. Although it is clear this has nothing to do with reality, it is equally clear that it has everything to do with reality as you perceive it, which just ties it back into how experiences are real when we perceive them. It's reality as we perceive it. And even furthermore, how we're talking about to heal somebody. Essentially, we give up the god of sickness and accept God for them. And even more powerfully now, fully powerfully, we're shown the whole picture. not only are we called to heal this person by accepting God for them, but if we do not accept God for them, we are bowing down to the God of sickness, which means we are accepting sickness for ourselves. So if healing somebody else is not inspiration enough, of course there is nobody else really. This is the whole one. But also furthermore, to reiterate the same message, for our own interest, we accept God for somebody that is sick.
Your mic is going just a little bit. Oh, it stopped.
Well, that's it.
And again, for those who maybe jumped on after we were talking about, Teresa gave us a nice description of sickness from A Course in Miracles point of view. We're talking about the sickness of physicality, of course, but beyond that, we're talking about what A Course in Miracles refers to as a split mind, wrong thinking, which is basically to say that there's something wrong with this, there's something wrong with that, something wrong with that, there's something that shouldn't be happening. That is the sickness. And if we see it out there in the world, then it's right here. We have this, we are carrying the sick mind with us.
And thank you, Karen, for bringing this back, because again, as Kathy's saying, it truly is saying the same exact thing over and 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 over again. One way of saying it is exactly as Karen says, we can't see something out there that doesn't exist within ourselves. This helps us in many cases. Other times we could think of it as worshiping the God of sickness. It's the same exact thought, but just framed in a different way. It's a different angle on the same exact thing. So we're given all these different tools to zero in on truth. And, whichever one we're called, especially on the first exposure with the Course in Miracles, we may need a bunch to really see what it's saying. But the more of these, each one of these is just so directly applicable to a certain circumstance or situation. So this is it. Open for comments for if somebody can speak in less than 20 seconds. I'm half joking, but of course, Teresa will send us off.
I will say quickly, the beauty of it is understanding to love and be kind to ourselves. We are offering the love and kindness to another without doing anything, but allowing and receiving, accepting that of.
But isn't it, and even it, to extend, Kathy, we're not doing anything, maybe, but more doing results from it. It's a greater doing from less effort. So it's maybe we're not going and getting credit or whatever, but doing, there is a doing going on.
I guess I'll replace that with fixing.
So the book fell open this week. It fell off the bed. Honestly, I don't know how, but it did. It jumped off the bed. And it opened up to chapter 27, The Healing of the Dream. And this is section 2. How just are miracles, for they bestow an equal gift of full deliverance from guilt upon your brother and yourself. Your healing saves him pain as well as you. And you are healed because you wished him well. This is the law the miracle obeys, that healing sees no specialness at all. Have a wonderful week. I love you all. See you next week.
Thanks, everybody.